Hello out there, my friends. It is I, Hondo Onaka. Now you know what to do. You must tune in to my favorite podcast, the Fiveish Fangirls. Otherwise, there could be consequences.
Hi everyone, Rachel here, bringing you a little extra squee with my recap of Indy PopCon 2025. Full disclosure, this is the second time I tried to record this, and I'm sure nobody's surprised, I tangent just a bit too much. So I am going to try and be a bit more precise. That's not right. It helps if I know words. Concise with my storytelling here, so I can just get to the important parts and the fun parts that you guys want to hear about. So yes, this is the technically 12th Indy PopCon, although there was the year of the pandemic that was online, but technically that was still Indy PopCon. And then of course, there have been the 2 in Louisville and then the 1 in Fort Wayne. So that makes 15 Comic-Con. I've been listening to stuff about San Diego Comic-Con, so I got that on the brain. PopCon conventions, and I've been to every single one. So, of course, the learning curve, not very steep for me as far as this is concerned. For those that may not know, there was supposed to be an additional event, something new that they were going to try to start this year, which is a creator summit. But unfortunately, that just did not come together quite the way they wanted, with the time that they had, from the time it was announced to the actual event. So that has been postponed to 2026. That being said, when it was still, on the calendar, I'd gone ahead and signed up and, got a hotel room in, at the con rate, discounted rate. It was the Crown Plaza downtown Indianapolis. That's where the Creator Summit was actually supposed to take place. So I was like, well, that's convenient to be in the same hotel. Plus, I'd always wanted to stay in the Crown Plaza. Preferably, I'd want to stay in one of the train car rooms they have, because this used to be part of Union Station. I mean, it still technically is. It's attached to it. But Union Station was an active major train station hub, for not just your trains that carry goods and the like, which is what you see most of the time out and about, but an actual, like Grand Central, King's Cross, take your pick, type train station. But obviously as times and transportation needs have changed, that is no longer the case. But, Union Station is now used for events. I've been to some, back when I worked for IU, there was an educational conference that was held there that we would go to. Gen Con has events over there because Gen Con is, so spread out across Indy. Union Station is still a building being utilized, just not for that particular purpose. That being said, there are still active train tracks right there that technically run over top of the hotel and Union Station. So if things like train noises bother you, I wouldn't recommend staying there, because it can be kind of loud. Because they are literally right? Depending on where you are, either right on top of you or right next to you. So, but it has some hotel rooms that are old train cars that they have converted into hotel rooms. I think there's a couple dozen of them, I think. But I thought that would be more cool if that was something that Chauncey and I could do together and stay in some place like that. But since he was not with me for this, I just stayed in a regular hotel room, which it was nice enough. Not anything fancy, but not, run down or anything either. It's an IHG property. It's the same company that owns Holiday Inn and properties like that. So perfectly acceptable room, comfy bed, air conditioning worked well, which was fabulous. A TV with cable. I had a mini fridge, coffee maker, which I did not use, but that's okay. Bathroom was decent, good water pressure in the shower. So, overall, can't complain. But even once the Creator Summit was postponed, I decided I was still going to go ahead and stay downtown. I just shortened my stay, since I didn't need to account for the Creator Summit. And that was because of all the construction going on downtown right now. Downtown Indianapolis is kind of a hot mess. We have not seen this type of boom, I think, since they were building all of the new hotels and the like Lucas Oil Stadium, so that we could bid to host the Super Bowl. Honestly, the expansion of the convention center, all that fun stuff. So yeah, they're trying to keep up with demand, not just for things like Gen Con, although that is a big part of it. But I don't know what the city's planning, but I imagine that we are probably going to bid to host another Super Bowl at some point. I've heard rumors of maybe not necessarily being an Olympic host city, but being a kind of satellite city. We did host the swimming and diving Olympic qualifications last year. We've held the NBA All-Star Weekend. We're getting ready to host the WNBA All-Star Weekend. So, Indy, we're trying to, maintain ourselves as a hub for, big-ish events, and making sure that we have plenty of hotels and parking, in theory. Although, in the moment, one of the hotels that they are building eliminated a underground parking garage. So, it is what it is. So yeah. But because of all that, I just did not want to deal with maneuvering around all the closed streets and sidewalks, and the fact that it was going to be pushing 100 degrees every day. So even if I did find relatively close parking, I would still have to be out in the heat to walk to and from the car. So I was just like, I'm just gonna pay the hotel and park and not have to worry about it. And I did not have to go outside very often, except to go to restaurants to eat. Otherwise, it was just to and from the car when I first got there, because their parking garage, unless I wanted to pay to valet park, which I was not going to. But if I wanted to self-park, that parking garage, still a couple blocks away. Lugging all my stuff from there to the hotel, not a lot of fun. Again, the the sidewalks, some of them are closed, some of them are not in the best shape. So not very conducive to lugging around a bunch of luggage and stuff. But yeah, I'm a big girl. I did it. Obviously, I survived, so yay. We will call that a win. So yeah. I ended up making Thursday very chill. I thought at one point maybe I would go out to get something to eat, because it was, again, stupid hot. So when I got there, and got into my room, initially I was like, okay, soaking in the air conditioning, gonna kick off my shoes, chillax for a little bit, and then maybe I'll go out to eat. Yeah, I did not move. Essentially the rest of the evening, except to go to the bathroom. That's about it. So once I sat down, I was not moving. But that's okay, because I didn't really need to be anywhere or do anything. And then that also meant that, I could relax that evening and take advantage of the fact that I got to sleep in a little bit Friday morning, because I went down Thursday. So it also meant I got to sleep in a little Friday morning, because I was already there. I did not have to worry, if I'd been home, worrying about getting up, getting on my stuff, going to the hotel in the morning, possibly having my room not ready yet, and therefore not having a place to dump my stuff before PopCon started Friday afternoon. So that's what was part of my logic there as well. So yeah, I was able to, take my time, get up, have a little breakfast snack time, get cleaned up, dressed, all that fun stuff, and then walk from the hotel down to the end of the convention center that PopCon was taking place, without having to go outside, which was fabulous. So I got my badge and wandered into the vendor hall and started to do my, what I call my scoping the floor. With ones this size, I usually try to get out onto the vendor floor and do at least a lap around the outside perimeter, if not go up and down some of the aisles, see if I recognize any vendors, see if there's people I recognize, that sort of thing. So I was able to say hello to some people that I know, and was able to catch the kickoff for PurrCon, because a friend of the show, KJ from KJ Today, the kind of nerdy girls, this was kind of her PopCon adjacent subgenre event, PurrCon, because if you know KJ, you know she's a crazy cat lady. She loves cats, all things cats, and this was something that she came up with. And so if you had PopCon admission, it got you into most of the PurrCon events. They had a stage where they could do panels about fostering. They had a vet there who was able to answer questions, that sort of thing. They did have there was an add-on PurrCon kind of add-on you could pay for on top of your PopCon admission that got you into some of the VIP type PurrCon things that included some crafts type things, some games, and then they also had some cats, like a VIP kitty meet and greet area that you could go to hang out with some cats, get some kitty therapy. And that was so cute. I didn't do that. I'm not a cat person. I should say I'm not a cat person the way I am a corgi person. I don't dislike cats. I am the aunt to two cats. Those are my brother and his partner's cats. And, I like them very much. And I'm more than happy to babysit them when necessary. which really is just making sure that they don't destroy the house when my brother has to go somewhere. But are Chauncey and I ever going to have a cat? Probably not. Chauncey's not really a cat person, even though he had a cat growing up. It was more his brother's cat, Kitty. And, but I always say never, because you just never know what the cat distribution system is going to do in the future. So for now, corgis only, probably. But you never know. That being said, I did enjoy seeing some of the vendors with cat related stuff and cat fanatic related stuff, stickers, shirts, toys that you could buy for your kitties at home, that sort of thing. There was folks who have a cat cafe that they were there promoting their place. There were a couple of rescues / humane society type groups also there to talk to people about cat care and that sort of thing. So I thought it was kind of cute. But I did catch the kind of the opening ceremonies, quote unquote, for PurrCon, which was some of our friends from Second Breakfast Improv were doing cat-themed improv games. So very much like Who's Line, except pretty much everything, every game was cat-themed. So that was kind of fun. I also saw Brandon Peters of the Brandon Peters Show. He, of course, once again, he was manning the live podcasting stage, doing his thing. Very awesome. He's definitely in his element doing that. I think he does a fantastic job of scheduling people to do live shows during the event, and he does some himself that are quite fun. We'll get to those. Also helping to man and organize the PopCon Podcast Awards, which unfortunately I did not get to attend. They were that Friday evening, but my body had other ideas that required me to stay in the hotel room where I could lay low and be close to a bathroom. And I'll leave it at that. Which kind of sucks. I hated missing the podcast awards, because if anything else, I always try to attend those, but it was just not in the cards this year, and I did not want to try and push myself and end up causing myself more issues that could affect the rest of the weekend. Listen to your body, kids. I don't care how old you are, how invincible, indestructible you may feel. Listen to your body. If you got aches and pains, stop, take note. If there's something you can do about it, great. If not, don't push yourself if you don't have to. It's taken a lot of going to comic conventions, like events like these, for me to realize that as much as I want to try and do anything and everything, to quote Shakira from the first Zootopia movie, try everything, it's just not physically possible. I'm sorry. Even Hermione learned that the hard way in Prisoner of Azkaban. That is, even with magic, you just can't necessarily do all the things. So yeah, I just spent mostly Friday being chill. Like I said, doing the scouting of the show floor to see who was where, that sort of thing. And I got a late lunch, early dinner in there. Dinner. I went to a sports bar that was a few blocks away from the convention center. down Georgia Street and around the corner as you're headed towards Circle Center Mall. Thankfully, one side of Georgia Street, you could still walk on the sidewalk, even though the rest of it was construction. It's called Tom's something. It's like Tom's Viewing something or other. And Watch Bar. That's what it is. I was like, something about TV. It's Tom's Watch Bar. So it's all the sports all the time. And it is definitely definitely the case. Lots of TVs, lots of opportunities to watch anything and everything, all sorts of stuff to keep you at least visually interested. So it was a late afternoon on a Friday, so there wasn't a whole lot going on. But yeah, that's okay. There's still plenty to watch, and they were playing music as well. And I had a great meal. I had their fried pickles, which were pretty good. Whenever Chauncey and or I go eat someplace we've never been before, if they've got fried pickles on the menu, odds are we're going to try it. Just, trying to find the world's best fried pickles. Which that's a story for another day. I've had a lot of fried pickles in my life. My cholesterol probably reflects that, but you know what? Whatever. And then I also had their chicken and cornbread pancake. So imagine a dinner plate, about the average size that you would get at a casual sit-down restaurant, like a TGI Fridays or Applebee's or Olive Garden or something, Fazoli's, that size plate. Not too big, not too small, but the, circumference of that, diameter and circumference of that, but it's a pancake made out of cornbread with butter on it, and then with it, some crispy chicken strips. It's like chicken and waffles, but slightly different, and oh my goodness, it was so good. I was not able to finish all of it, but that is okay. I ended up putting it in my fridge at the hotel, thinking maybe I would eat some of it over the weekend. Unfortunately, I did not have access to a microwave, but hey, I figure cold probably be okay. And I ended up not eating it. I ended up eating the leftovers after I got home, where I had a microwave and a fresh bottle of maple syrup, and oh my goodness, so good. Again, cholesterol wise, probably not very good, but you know what? It's a special occasion. So that was wonderful. Yeah, so like I said, I had to settle in my room, unfortunately, for the rest of the night because my tummy was not happy. That was not Tom's problem by any means. This was related to other issues that I have. Again, not going to get into all my medical stuff, but this was not in any way related to the meal that I had. So I'm sure somebody's going to be like, well, you had fried chicken and fried pickles and giant cornbread. And it's like, yes, but yeah, I was also staying hydrated, lots of water and stuff. It's not connected, at least not directly. Anyway. So yeah, so that was my Friday. Chill. All good. Saturday, that's the busy day. Always the busiest day for pretty much all these events. So I got up early-ish, again, got cleaned up, got dressed, grabbed my Marvel canvas art thing that I've been using to collect MCU related autographs on. This was my day to go collect the 2 autographs that I wanted to get on that. So I went back down to the vendor floor and got in line for first. I got in line for Emma Caulfield, who you might know as Anya on Buffy. But in this case, she was also Dottie in WandaVision. So, of course, it being WandaVision, I had to get her autograph, especially since I had Vision's autograph already. I met Paul Bettany, so that was fabulous. That's where I had her sign, was near Paul's signature. So she was nice, not super chatty. She had been on her phone as it was getting to my turn, because she was dealing with some parenting related stuff. She's a mom, so, I'm not a mom, but I get that parenting is, it takes up a lot of your time, no matter how young or old your kids are. It also comes first, so, that's fine. No, I'm not going to begrudge her for being mom first, celebrity second. And she was nice enough, so that's all good. And then after her, then I went and got in line for Titus Welliver. I think that's how you pronounce it. But he is probably one of those people that you know his face, even if you don't know his name. He's been on things like Sons of Anarchy and Deadwood and the like. He's also in Star Wars. But he was also on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for, I think 3 episodes. So, of course, I had to get his autograph, and, I pointed out, I was like, well, I've got several people from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. signatures right here. So, if you want to add to it in that area, great. He's like, oh, do you have Clark? And I was like, no, not yet. He's kind of my white whale. We got talking about Clark Gregg. So Clark, if you happen to hear this and your ears were burning, late morning Saturday, that's probably because Titus and I were talking about you, and how you would crash on Titus's couch sometimes. We talked about Clark's, run on Broadway in George Clooney's adaptation of Good Night and Good Luck, which, I told him, I was like, that's one of my favorite movies, and I think George did a fantastic adaptation, bringing it to stage, and he agreed. He'd actually seen it, got to go see it in person. I told him I'd watched the live stream on CNN when they did that. We talked about, getting, he himself collects some autographs for his kids. He's got 2 sons. He talked about how when his early on, when he would do shows and stuff like Sons of Anarchy and get cast members to sign stuff, he would have them autograph it and dedicate it to both of his sons. And then he realized as his sons grew up and moved out of the house that you had a bit of a dilemma, kind of like the 2 ladies trying to claim the same baby. So he says from now on, whenever he gets autographs, he makes sure to get one for each son, because they would fight over who would get what autographs to put on display in their respective homes. But yeah, he was super nice to talk to. I mean, we probably could have stood there and chatted for, I don't know how long if somebody else had not come up. behind me after a while, wanting to, get their own autograph or selfie or whatever. But yeah, I had a lot of fun talking to him. And as I was leaving, I was like, hey, tell Clark, as much as I appreciate and understand that it's easy enough to get work there on the East Coast in New York, don't forget us flyover states. And he's like, yeah, I'll tell him. Like, thank you. So again, Clark, I get it. Yeah. Broadway George Clooney calls and says, hey, want to do a play? You don't really say no. Again, you were fantastic in it. I know Clark is scheduled to make an appearance at New York Comic Con to have a little mini Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reunion with him and Agent May and Quake, aka Daisy. So, oh, Clark Gregg. My white whale. I still have space reserved for you, Clark. As full as it's getting. There's still plenty of space for other people, and I still have that space reserved for you. It's just a matter of when, not if. So there's that. And then I went back to the hotel room to drop that off because I didn't, I'd gotten autographs I wanted to get. I didn't want to be carrying it around where it could get damaged or lost or whatever. There's a lot of time and money invested in that thing. So we're going to not put it at risk if we can help it. So then I wandered over to one of the nearby hotels to go to Starbucks to get a snacky snack, get a beverage and a little snacky snack, and get away from kind of the hustle and bustle for a hot minute. So that was nice. And then, headed back and decided to wander upstairs to the second floor where they were hosting a lot of the panels in those rooms. But I wandered down to one of the rooms on the end where they were having sword fighting, I guess is the best description. At least that's what they were doing when I was in there. They had two people with real swords in full armor, like metal armor, going at it and fighting. Like you would see like fencing or something. Except this was more deadly, I'm guessing, if you didn't know what you were doing. Although there was one guy that was part of the group that at one point he was like, hey, those of you here watching these two people are some of the best swordsmen in the entire area. I'll take his word for it. I don't know the first thing about fighting with a long sword. I don't know the first thing about fighting with any sword outside of Dungeons and Dragons, and that is all in my imagination. So, but it was kind of cool. I do not know who these people were. They remind me of the people I've seen from the Society of Creative Anachronisms, which they have been around for ages. I know we have a local group chapter because I've seen them at other places doing very similar things. People wearing armor and fighting with swords. Among other things. So, but I didn't see like any signage or anything. So I don't know if they were part of the CSA or not. CSA. SCA. Words, letters, fun. So yeah. But whoever they were, more power to them for doing that. I mean, it looks cool. Is this something I really want to do? Nah, I'll just stick with, in my head, playing Dungeons and Dragons, because then nobody gets hurt. Except in Dungeons and Dragons. Oh my. Roll for athleticism. But yeah, that was cool to sit there and watch that for a little bit. And then I wandered down to because that was on the second floor. And I wanted to make sure that I got back down to the live podcasting stage so that I could catch Brandon and Jessica Alsman doing a live version of the Brandon Peters show, where they take, at this point now they have 3. They started with just 1. And they've been doing this for several years, but a couple of older copies of Trivial Pursuit, and essentially they in between cons, they will go and collect things from like thrift stores and yard sales and stuff, things like random movies on DVD or VHS or books or pop culture related Happy Meal toys and stuff like that. And then what they will do is pick a person from the audience. Patches, KJ's husband, is kind of plays the MC. Thank goodness for Patches for being a good sport for doing that. We didn't have to pry him away from playing darts for a little bit. So now that darts is a thing, had a much bigger presence last year because it was the first year for it, but there were still some darts people with a presence, with a booth, with some dart boards of official, very official dart boards for people to play and learn how to play and learn the scoring and all that fun stuff. But that's like Patch's like thing at the moment is darts. But we convinced him, or somebody convinced him, to step away from the dartboard for a little bit to play kind of MC in the audience for Brandon and Jessica Alsman of the Bob and Tom Show. And what they do is they get somebody from the audience. They'll pick their version of Trivial Pursuit that they went to play from, I guess. And then they'll give them categories. They pick category, they give them the question, and the person gives the answer. This, Brandon and Jessica are very loosey-goosey about it. They give hints. They allow people to ask the audience for help. So that pretty much everybody who plays gets to walk away with a prize of some sort. So it's ridiculous, especially considering their copies of Trivial Pursuit that they use are on the older side. So some of that stuff is very dated. But it's still fun. I enjoy watching. I don't need to play. I'll leave that to other people who, especially the ones that have no idea what they're getting themselves into. But that was fun to watch. And again, kudos to Brandon and Jessica for another successful game of Trivial Pursuit with the Brandon Peters show. Then I went back to wandering the vendor floor. I ended up buying some stuff, including a present for Chauncey, and which that was a lot of fun. Some very creative people out there, vendors, which is a blessing and a curse because decision paralysis is totally a thing I can suffer from when you've got somebody who's got a lot of really cool shit and you don't want to spend every single penny you have. Oh, it's like I can do it. I can narrow it down, but it's hard sometimes because there's just some very, very cool stuff out there. So I've got pictures. Pictures are already on the Fiveish Fangirls Facebook page. There's some video on Instagram. Eventually, when I get a hot second, I will go through all the video I took and edit it into something that can go up on the YouTube channel. but that when that will happen is TBD. So then I needed a snack. Been a little bit, so it was time for another snack. And I bought from the concessions there at the convention center. I got one of those giant pretzels with the cheese, and I got a bottle of water so that I could put some liquid IV in it. Hashtag not a sponsor, but just saying, liquid IV, love you. You've gotten me through a lot of conventions. Just saying. And I thought that I would, I was like, well, I could do the Lou Mangello thing and just stand at a trash can and eat my pretzel with cheese. But I thought, like, let's do something a bit more interesting. So I took my snackety snack and my beverage and wandered over to the room where they were doing the wrestling. So WCWO was there that weekend holding wrestling matches. As I got in and got settled, there was a match finishing up. And so I got to watch 2 complete matches. The first one was I think I called it a 3-for-all because it was 3 people, but it wasn't a tag team. It was just one against one. So, one of the guys, definitely a heel character. You could just tell by the way he carried himself, the way he talked, his attitude, definitely supposed to be a heel. The other 2, maybe not heel, but also maybe not heroes, maybe more neutral. But still, it was kind of wild to see, 3 guys essentially take on each other. And you would think maybe the 2 guys that weren't the heel maybe would like team up and take on the heel, which I think they tried to do, but, at the same time, they also wanted them, everybody wanted to win, and there could only be one winner. So, and it turns out that the heel won. I'm still not entirely sure how that happened, that he managed to submit both of them, but he did. So yeah, the heel won, for better for worse. And then the match after that was a tag team. So this was 2 teams of 2. One team, definitely a pair of heels. The other team, way more fun. Definitely more your hero type. The 2 non-heel guys, their outfits were way more colorful, and they were just, they were way more fun to watch. It was a hard-fought battle, but thankfully they did win, which was great. So I'm not a wrestling person, but I can appreciate it for the art that it is. I understand why people find it entertaining. I appreciate the athleticism. You can definitely tell when someone takes a genuine hit versus a staged one, or they do a fall, especially onto the mat, especially from some of those higher, how you climb up the ropes, and then go flying. That there's still some athleticism involved, and it's definitely a sport that's not meant for somebody who's prone to injury. You really have to kind of know what you're doing so that you don't get genuinely hurt. Because, people have, even in the, premier wrestling, echelons, people have gotten seriously hurt and are killed. So, I can appreciate it for what it is. So yeah, that was, interesting to watch at the very least. And it was something to keep myself entertained while I was eating my snack. And And then went back to the vendor hall this time to check out some of the Star Wars groups stuff that they had brought, because every group is kind of different with what they bring as far as photo ops and droids and characters and that sort of thing. So our local 501st and Rebel Legion were there. Mos Espa base, what? So they had, some of their stuff set up. There's the Sith group as well, that had a setup, and they had the thing where you could learn to play sabacc, which Chauncey and I did at Louisville last year. We learned how to play sabacc, so that was kind of cool. And so I didn't need to do that again because I knew how to play. But checking out the stuff that they had on display, all the critters and things. They had a loth cat. That was very cute. So I love loth cats. So there's that. Of course, they were doing bounties for folks. So, you could pay to put a bounty on somebody, and then that person could eventually get captured and put in jail, Star Wars jail, or they could pay, or somebody could pay on their behalf the bounty to be set free and have your sentence, I guess, commuted. Is that the right word? So this, you'd be in at a vendor table looking at wares, and then every so often you would hear bell ringing, very much kind of a la shame, in Game of Thrones, kind of. Because that means they'd captured someone who had a bounty on them and they were being taken to get locked up. So that was fun. I love Star Wars, obviously. And then I went to watch the first ever PopCon fashion show. So this was something that they're hopefully going to continue. Since this was the first year, it was been on the small side. There was only 4 designers who brought a small collection of their wares to show off, runway style on the same stage that they were using for like the cosplay contest. And 2 of the designers were actually also vendors there at the con, and one of them actually was also the host and organizer for the fashion show. So that was kind of cool. So hopefully that is something that continues and we'll get more designers, because it is kind of cool to see what people are doing when they're not producing necessarily for the masses. So then, because that was so short, there was a good chunk of time between the end of that and the cosplay contest. So I was like, I'm gonna go back to my room and drop off some stuff. I was like, I don't necessarily need the bag with all the crap in it for just to watch cosplay contest. And once again, ended up staying in the room, this time not necessarily because I wasn't feeling well, but because I had made a big old mess and realized that I needed to get my shit together, because I needed to be able to check out in the morning and take all my stuff to the car before going into the convention for the final day. So I have a nasty habit of kind of exploding all over the place when I get somewhere. Yeah. My hotel room had 2 beds. I slept in one. The other one just became kind of like my working area. So I just had stuff like covering the entire bed. Clothes and cables and blah. It was a hot mess. I managed to just like explode all over the place in like 2 days. So yeah, I need to kind of get that straightened out. So yeah, I ended up spending the rest of the evening sorting and getting all my ducks in a row so that when I woke up bright and early Sunday morning, I was ready to go. And I'm glad I did that, because that's exactly what happened. So I was able to get up Sunday morning and load everything into I have this wagon that my in-laws got me for my birthday several years ago, so I use it to lug just about everything. Again, not necessarily conducive to the state of the sidewalks in downtown Indianapolis right now, but hey, it worked for what it needed to. I am gonna make a note next, whenever that wagon bites the dust, that my next one is going to have the more hardy all-terrain tires wheels. So, because I know they make them. But that's for down the line. So yeah, I was able to just load everything in the wagon that I could, and got to the front desk, checked out, turned in my key, and all that fun stuff, and then maneuvered along those crazy sidewalks again to the car, where I was able to toss everything that I was not going to need for the rest of that day in, which was nice. That it was close enough that I had a place to put crap that I was not going to need. And then I hit up the other Starbucks that is in the area-ish, and again, got myself a beverage and something to eat, and kind of chilled for a little bit, played some Pokemon Go, just to, ease my way into the final day of the convention. And so got there not long after the doors had opened the vendor hall, and thankfully Jonesy, word to Jonesy of the Established Facts / Second Breakfast Improv, was nice enough to let me drop off my bag that I did have into their booth. Thankfully, the booth next to them was not there. They cleared out. They were only there Friday and Saturday for whatever reason, so the booth space next to them was completely empty. So they kind of expanded their booth a little. So Jonesy was like, just stick it there. As long as it's out of the way, that's fine. And I was like, thank you very much. Because even at that point, my neck and shoulders were like, be careful, lady. So then I did some networking-ish, shameless self-promotion with some people. I have, for those that don't know, I am trying to write a book. It is about the power of authenticity through the lens of female fandom. And I have a open, active survey on in a Google Doc, and I'm trying to just get feedback from real life geeks and nerd creators, fans, that sort of thing. So I had this flyer, and then also these kind of mini flyers that just had the URL and the QR code and like the title that I could give to people. And then like the bigger flyers I gave to like the Star Wars people, or the Rubber City cosplay, where if they had multiple people that could possibly fill it out. It was just an individual. I just gave them a little individual flyer. So I did that. I also stopped by the Circle City Ghostbusters so that I could spin the wheel and win a prize. So I gave my donation, spun the wheel, and won a pair of socks. So now I have Ghostbusters themed socks that got Slimer and then the Ghostbusters logo on there. So, yay! I do love novelty socks, especially pop culture related ones. I didn't have any Ghostbusters, so yay. Although those will not get worn until it's cooler outside. It's a little warm to be wearing socks. Unless I absolutely have to. So, yeah. I did that. Did a bit more shopping. Bought some stuff for myself and for Chauncey. I've given him everything now, so I can take pictures and I can add them to the photo album, so that folks can see at least some of the stuff that I got over the weekend. So I don't want to spend too much just because we have other stuff coming up, so I didn't necessarily want to blow the budget if I didn't have to. Just because you have a budget doesn't mean you have to spend it all. Whatever you don't spend, that just means that it gets to get rolled over into the next thing. So, adulting, fun. And then I wanted to make sure that I caught Brandon's other live podcast, which is where he calls it badly described movies, the game. Is its official, unofficial name. And it's him with Chris, I believe is his name, from the Normies. And it's exactly what it sounds like. They pick a movie and they will tell you the decade that it's from and the genre that it's from. And then they will give you 5 descriptors of that are related to said film. It could be something related to the plot, it could be something related to a character, it could be a quote out of context. So, and then the person has to guess what the movie title is, and you have to be exact with this. Unlike with the game, the Trivial Pursuit, with Jessica, with this, Brandon and Chris are much more strict when it comes to the rules, and as far as how you win. You're not allowed to ask the audience. I don't even want people looking at the audience. And no extra hints or anything like with the other game. So yeah, people would walk away without winning anything on this one, but this is for the more diehard maybe movie fans. So but yeah, again, fun to watch. I don't care to volunteer to participate. I just participate in my head, which is just, that's fine. I don't need prizes or anything. Again, leaving it to the people who may have not as good idea of who these people are and what they're getting themselves into. So yeah. And that was kind of the last thing. By the time that they finished, there was only technically an hour left. At that point, I just kind of collected my stuff and was like, hey, it's been fun. Peace out. That was kind of it for PopCon specific stuff. I did stay downtown long enough to get something to eat, and then I went and got in my car and came home and lugged all my stuff into the house and had just enough time to take a little bit of a breather before I had to hop on to record Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, because our special guest schedule was kept her from being able to record with us on our usual Thursday. So we needed to schedule a time during the weekend, and it just so happened that it was Sunday evening is when she was available. So, yeah, I didn't really get to come home and like super relax right away. But that's okay. That's what I spent most of Monday doing, was being a bit of a slug, because it had been quite the weekend. According to my phone, I walked 8, almost 9 miles over the course of the weekend. And you know, that's sounds about right, actually. All things considering. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. PopCon is, it's like home for me. It's family. It's not necessarily, it's not celebrity driven, but like some other conventions, it's not game heavy, or game forward, like something like Gen Con. It's just a little bit of everything. And I like that they try different things, to see what fans are, excited about, yes, I mean, you're still gonna have, some recognizable celebrities, both people's face you're gonna recognize and also people's voice you're gonna recognize. We had a number of anime voiceover artists and also just some animation voiceover artists. We had several repeat guests like Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche. So we had Pinky and the Brain again, which was great. And some new faces as well. You've got your influencers, your TikTok stars, and your YouTube stars, celebrities that, I don't necessarily know who these people are, but enough people do that they got invited. So great. Your cosplayers, which was, always, one of my favorite things to see what people come up with as far as cosplays and seeing what's popular, at the moment. And just, seeing familiar faces, like I said, our friends over at the Established Facts, Brandon, some of our friends with Four Horsemen Publishing, they were there, hawking their wares and doing book and book related panels, which was awesome. Circle City Ghostbusters, our Star Wars groups, KJ, Patches, they had the film festival, which has been going on for a number of years. There was open gaming, there was robot mech fighting, which was cool to watch. They had some actual gaming like tournaments going on. There was laser tag. So, I mean, there's just so much going on that, if you went to PopCon and got bored, I don't know what to tell you, to be honest with you. And I mean, I guess if you have an interest that's just like super niche and it's not being covered, then I guess, maybe depending on what it is, maybe you should submit like a fan panel or something, and you may be surprised that there are other people into the same thing you're into. I don't know. You would be surprised. But yeah, hopefully everything works out so that the Creator Summit is something that can happen next year. I do not know at this point if the plans are to have it be its own event pre-PopCon, or if it's something they'll try to fold in to PopCon. PopCon is earlier next year. It is in May. So I don't know if that'll make a difference or not. Unfortunately, with PopCon, they are at the whims of when the convention center is available. Because other events are locked in. Gen Con is pretty much locked in for the next 5 bazillion years. The FFA, they're always here about the same time every year. The firefighters are here about the same time every year. That we also have, just the other events that happen sometimes annually, sometimes not. I guess we'll wait and see as we get closer to next year's event what happens, what new things they may decide to try, as far as events or different types of celebrities. Who knows? That's the nice thing about PopCon, is there is kind of a little bit of everything for everybody. So, but yeah, that's my recap of PopCon. This is, even though I still rambled a bit, shorter than my last attempt. So yay me. For those that I did see over the weekend and I forgot to mention to you, I am sorry. It's a lot. It's a lot going on. Unfortunately my memory is only so good, and I've kind of slept since then. So, but even if I didn't mention you, know that I appreciate seeing your face, and even if we only got to talk for a couple of minutes, I appreciate everyone who shows up to support this event. Obviously, without the fans showing up, PopCon would have died off a long time ago, and I would be sad. So here's hoping that it continues to reach new audiences and grow. And I look forward to Indy PopCon next year, 2026. So yeah, if any of our listeners also went to PopCon and want to give their 2 cents on what they thought of the event, of course, you can always email us, fivevishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, which is thefivevishfangirls.com, where you can connect with all of our podcast-related social media accounts and our individual ones as well, along with ways to financially support the podcast, either buying merch or on Patreon. We appreciate the support we get from everybody, whether it's via your hard-earned dollars or even just likes and shares. Every little bit helps to keep the show going and gives us the warm fuzzies, which, no matter how hot or cold it may be outside, warm fuzzies are always appreciated. And hopefully, I'll catch some of y'all at Indy PopCon next year. But for now, that's it. Bye. Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefivevishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FivevishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.